You're listening to Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your go-to gal for all things money. As the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, I'm here to take you on a thrilling ride from the financial chaos to sassy and sexy money. Hey, my sassy friend. Welcome to another episode of Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, the Sassy Wealth Queen, and with me today is Patti Handy. And we're going to be, of course, having a candid conversations about money. After spending a combined 20 years as a financial advisor and mortgage advisor and having countless conversations with women, she decided to pursue her dream of financial coaching for women. She's a teacher at heart, and she loves to educate and empower women with money smarts. I love that. Understanding that money can be an overwhelming topic for many, she's audaciously passionate about creating financial confidence when it comes to your well-being. This has been the catalyst to follow her passion of empowering and educating women in their financial journey. She's a certified executive coach, a certified life coach. She holds a real estate broker license, and she's a published author of 4 books. So please enjoy the episode. Welcome, Patti. I'm so excited to have you. And you used my favorite word, which is also my word of the year, which is audaciously, or my word is audacious. And so I can't wait to dive in. And one of the things that I thought I would want to talk about is you mentioned, that one of your biggest money mistakes was making financial decisions under emotional circumstances. So stress and those kind of things. Can you kind of go into what that pertain to or what that looked like?
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. So I went through a divorce many years ago. And of course, that is a very emotional and traumatic experience. My son was 18 months old at the time. And it was a time where I had left my corporate banking world and wanted to raise my son. So when I went through my divorce, I was unemployed. And it was a time of emotional and physical and financial. I mean, everything was being, pressures. And when you're in that state of just trying to survive versus looking at ways to thrive, you make some bad decisions. And I did. I got involved in some things that I probably shouldn't have. I got invested in things I didn't understand completely. And I was the money person in the marriage. My husband didn't know anything about finances, and I did the investing. I managed the money. So I was comfortable in that role. But when you're emotionally distraught and you're dealing with life being thrown at you with so many things, you're not thinking clearly. You're in this black cloud and you're just trying to, get by. So, yeah, one of the first things I tell ladies is, fresh out of a divorce, if you recently lost your husband, to take some time for self-care. Don't make any big financial decisions when you're in that state. It's not going to end well.
Mm-hmm. What did you learn from that? Like, can you give us an example of a money mistake that you had made, and then afterwards how you shift your money belief from that?
Yeah, I invested in some products that I didn't completely understand. That was the one of the biggest things. I was just so desperate to get caught up financially that, it looked great. This is good. Friends are telling me this is a great thing to do. And it also had to do with some timing. It was back in 08, I think it was. And I bought into something in 06, and the real estate market tanked. And so I got, completely annihilated with the real estate market. But it was really coming from a place of scarcity and lack, and the mindset was fear. And I, again, made those decisions based out of that fear mode. And if you're in that mindset of fear and scarcity and you're looking at just surviving, take your time, understand what you're investing in, ask the questions. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Don't feel pressured to get into something if you don't completely understand it. And I always tell people, if you can't explain what you're investing in to a 4th grader so they can understand it, then you don't understand it well enough to invest in it yourself. So make sure that you completely understand the products, especially in the investment world. There's a lot of like annuities and insurance products that there's a lot of moving parts to them, and they can be very complicated. So just be careful that you understand all those nuances if that's something that you end up wanting to do. And so just take your time and give yourself some grace. Again, give yourself some time to kind of take care of yourself and be well. And once you're out of that, that cloud, you can then look at things more realistically and determine if, whatever it is you're looking at makes sense for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so part of your journey, and I guess that's where you're talking about making the good investment choices, but part of your journey is navigating being a single mom, right? And how did that affect your money mindset and your money beliefs? And what step did you maybe take to shift that?
Yeah, so it was, a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear, and there was a lot of that came from my childhood, and that's where our money story really begins. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the seeds that were planted. So I was dealing with, oh my gosh, I'm going to forever be in this place of fear, and this is not healthy. And it was a while. It took some time to kind of turn the ship, if you will. Part of it was the healing from the divorce. Part of it was, um, you know, focusing on my why, which was my son, and how can I be the best mom for him? And, um, you know, I don't want him to be in an environment where there's fear and lack and scarcity. And so that really drove me to want to, turn again that ship. So it was a process. It doesn't happen overnight. You're programmed with these
No,
things.
no.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very slow process. So, but there's a lot of ways you can do this. I mean, combination of reading, reaching out to people, just starting out with being aware and being mindful of some of those limiting beliefs that were playing in my head, and then poking holes in them and proving them wrong, showing how they are false. They're not, those limiting beliefs aren't true. They're just what beliefs were programmed into me when I was young. So that's kind of the start. That's the beginning. I always tell people you've got to really understand what's kind of playing in your subconscious mind and understand what is those limiting beliefs that you heard growing up, and
Yeah.
how can you show those to be false?
Yeah, I tell my clients all the time that in order to shift your mindset, you have to know what those beliefs are, what your current money beliefs are, then you really need to dig into where they actually came from. Like what were the money stories you were told, and then you can actually. And I tell everybody all the time, it's just a story. So we can flip the page and we can write a new one. And that means then we can also shift those money beliefs. And so I think it's really important that the listeners and my listeners understand that the money beliefs can be shifted. No, they do not happen overnight. And money mindset is something you're going to work on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It's just like, I call it fitness for my brain or fitness for my mental health. It's part of, it's like fitness, right? You can't, excuse me. You can't work out and get fit and lose the weight and then say, okay, I don't ever have to do it again. And it's great. That's not how this works. And that's not how it works with the money mindset or the mindset. Um, Digging into books, and I've done the same thing, by the way. I've probably got about 50 somewhere that I read and I keep and go back to. What are some of the things that you did? What's one small thing like to shift that money mindset? I know that poked holes in it. How did you poke holes in it? Did you, as an example, did you like reframe it? What were some of the things that you did to poke holes in it?
Yeah, I just like you said, I identified what those were. First of all, I looked at what I heard growing up what I heard as only a child. But then as I got into, elementary school and junior high and high school, I heard those same stories from my parents. And no shame to them or blame to them or anything else. It was just what they learned. So if I look at my parents and go, well, I heard these things from my parents and they did the best they could given what they knew because they learned from their parents and they've learned from their grandparents and so forth and so forth. There's no shame. There's no blame. So it was my responsibility to go, you know what? My parents learned their stuff from their grandparents who were, raised very poor or, struggled or were whatever. And so, that was how I started like poking holes in it. I would just look at ways that, that is not true. That's a limiting belief that was true for, my mom or dad, but it's not reality. That was their truth because of what their parents told them. So when I logically looked at it and I thought, okay, this is not true, I then, programmed myself, so to speak, to say, this is not the reality. My brain has that. Now, mind you, when you've been programmed into a particular limiting belief, it's in your subconscious mind. So we consciously can't even necessarily always identify these things. They're just kind of playing in this loop in the subconscious mind. So, there's a trap door, so to speak, between the conscious and the conscious mind. So our role is to kind of open that trap door and then let that reprogramming happen. And the beautiful thing about, the brain is that it's there's neuroplasticity. And so we can change those neural pathways. We do have the ability to change those. And that is by a combination of many things. And we could talk about that too. But, it starts with oftentimes hypnosis, affirmations. There's inner child work, which is a whole nother conversation. There's breath work, there's energy work, there's all these different facets to our being, and there's different ways to get to that mind, if you will. So the very cool thing is that if you are in a situation where you aren't happy, if the results in your life are not where you want to be, you can change that. You are not destined to, have this circumstance just because you were, raised in this situation where there was, lack and fear and scarcity. That is not what you're destined for.
Oh, absolutely not. And so far, all of my guests have proven that. I'm living proof of that. I want you as my listener to understand that this current situation you're in doesn't have to be the full situation, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't define you. It doesn't mean it can't change. I was. Point blank, I was on food stamps when I started my business, and I had to have my vehicle repossessed because I was let go. I was barely making ends meet. And, I still find it funny. Everybody was telling me, you go find a real job, go back and get a real job. It's more secure. No, that's what just let me go.
Yeah.
I don't know how secure that is. And if I'm going to barely make ends meet, I'm going to do it on my terms, and I'm going to be home with my kids. And that was before we found out my oldest was special needs. And, I want you as my listener to understand that your current money story doesn't actually have to be your money story. It doesn't have to be your belief, right? It can change. You can switch it. And I've done hypnotic work. I've done I do affirmations. I do energy work, and I still to this day I'll listen to stuff as I'm going to sleep, and it's kind of like an abundance hypnosis. It's One of my clients is a therapist, and she says, Lisa, it's cognitive therapy for your brain. You're reprogramming your brain. She said, we do the same thing in a different way, but that's what you're doing when it comes to money. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Sure. And it works. Now, again, it doesn't work overnight, right? Patti, you agree that we both have said that doesn't work overnight.
Yep.
It's something you have to consistently do and find something that works and helps you. I have several tools in my toolbox. Not everything is going to work at any given time. So I know I can dig deeper to, like, for right now, I've gone deeper into the abundance mindset. So I've gone deeper into that to where I'm listening to things, and I'm doing that because I need something else out of my toolbox. And I think that's really important for everyone to realize, is that you're going to have more than just one thing to
Mm.
come to help you flip the script on your money beliefs, shift those money beliefs, and be able to change your money story. One of the questions I have too is, and I love, one of the questions I ask everybody is, like, some of the limiting beliefs that you've heard, and one of the ones you put was, you need to grind and hustle all the time to make money. Oh my gosh, I've heard that too. And I remember they're like, oh, you're going to have to work harder than you've ever had to work before, even when you had a day job. I'm like, no, I'm not working 50 to 60 hours a week. I'm not doing that. Now, don't get me wrong. We do work hard. Okay. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to grind and hustle all the time to make money. Can you go into a little bit of that belief, of where it came from, and what it made you feel, and how you shifted that as well?
Yeah, I think that it's such a common. I mean, I hear that and see that so often out there in the world, and it is such a common belief system. And I think it's because a lot of our parents, depending upon how old we are, or potentially our grandparents, they were born in that depression years, the 1930s, and people lost everything. And so there was that, you've got to just work hard, and you've got to just, money does not come easy. And, if you don't hustle and grind it, you're never going to get ahead, and you've got to do this and do that. And so you hear that growing up. So that's what you just believe. And I did hear, that I saw my dad, work two jobs. I saw my mom work. She was at home, but there was five kids, and she was managing five kids. I have one son, and I always say to her, how did you deal with five? Oh my gosh, that's just insanity. So I think she worked harder than my dad, who had two jobs. Um, but, it is a grind and hustle now, or it was, I should say. Now I look at it as, okay, if I'm doing something that I'm passionate about, if I'm doing a business that's mine and I love what I'm doing, yes, there is action that I'm taking during the day, and I potentially am working how many hours in that day, whatever that is. It's an inspired action. And if you look at it that way, like, okay, yeah, I am doing these activities, call it work, call it whatever you want. I am doing these activities to grow this business because I'm passionate about helping women. I have this desire to, change the world and change this blanket, if you will, that's comes when it comes to investing money, and how women just aren't being serviced the way I want to see them serviced. So yes, there's lots of hours put in, but I'm not grinding and hustling. That's not, there's also like that the language, you got to be careful how you speak to yourself. And if I'm just saying, oh, I'm grinding, that's physically exhausting. It's mentally, emotionally. I mean, it's just exhausting in every shape. So, if you say to yourself, you know what, I'm taking some inspired action today, and yeah, I put in a lot of hours. It felt good. I'm seeing how I'm really changing, and I'm impacting the world. This is fantastic. So again, it's how you look at things. But yeah, the grind and hustle mentality, that's BS. I'll keep it
Absolutely.
clean. Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, and how did that affect your mindset, though, at first, right? How did that affect your mindset when you were like, okay, I'm going to have to grind and hustle? And then, and what are some of the things that you did to shift it so that your mindset was like, no, this is something I want to do. And, I don't have to, that doesn't have to be a true story for me.
Yeah. Quite frankly, I did have that grind and hustle mentality, through college, through my early career. And then when I went through my divorce, I was, hustling and grinding just to, you know, raise my son and stay in the house and do what I needed to do to, raise him on my own.
And
And
how did that affect you, though? How did that affect you? You doing that?
in what way? Like physically or emotionally or mentally or
Is it
all
all
the
of it?
above? Yeah, it was exhausting. I mean, it beat me up. It was exhausting, absolutely. And it didn't shift me until much later. I've always been a personal development junkie. I always loved learning about personal development. So once I learned about this, I didn't know any different. I didn't understand it back then because I didn't know any different. I was just focused on, oh my gosh, I've got to get a job and get, food on the table for my son and pay this mortgage and, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't much later in life that I started to read and learn and grow and realize, understand these limiting beliefs, understand the programming in our mind, understand all these things that we're sharing today. And that's when I'm like, oh, okay, time to shift. So, it took time. I mean, it was many years. Like I said, this happened, later in life, so to speak. So, yeah, if you're fortunate enough to be young and you hear this young, uh, you're ahead of the game. So that's
Absolutely.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm 50, so I can actually say yes. If you're hearing this young, listen and don't make the same mistakes that we all did. You may make mistakes, but also don't beat yourself up about them because
100%.
that's how we learn, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't start my business until I was 43, and I had two kids, and both are special needs, and it's you realize you work hard, and when you're doing something you love, it's not necessarily the hustle and grind. And the hustle and grind, not only is it exhausting, but it beats yourself up mentally, because
Hmm.
then when you take a day off, you're beating yourself up because you're taking a day off and you're not hustling and grinding. And that mentality is just not a good mindset to have, because it's not something you have to do. um,
Yeah.
I instead say that I enjoy doing what I do, and I set boundaries on my hours and what I'm going to do. And sometimes does it changes, but I make sure that I'm uh, consistent with myself, and I remind myself that I don't have to have that hustle and grind mentality. Um, if you wanted to one piece of advice for our listeners on shifting the mindset and just having or shifting their relationship with money, what would that one piece of advice be?
Um, I would say focus on the why and what it's gonna do for you and what it's costing you not to have that shift. The cost of not shifting that mindset is, your health, physically, financially, emotionally, mentally. And if you focus on the why you want to shift and the importance of that, that will be your driving force to keep learning, keep growing. And when you don't see things changing, to stay at it. You mentioned earlier about going to the gym. You can't go to the gym once or twice or three times or even 10 times and feel like, oh, I don't have any more muscle, or I didn't lose a pound yet. What the heck? Well, that takes time, right? It's a combination
Mhm,
of how much time you do at the gym, how you eat, and all the other factors. So it takes time to make this shift. I mean, your brain's
mhm.
been programmed like this for decades, so you've to give yourself that time to do that change. But if you focus on the why, and I'm going to kind of add to that, if the why is materialistic, like I want a bigger house, or I want to drive a Mercedes, or I want to have a fancy watch so I can show the world that I've arrived. That materialistic why can be dangerous and very short-lived as far as satisfaction. Your emotional, your why needs to be emotional. My why was my son. It continues to
Mhm.
be my son, and he's 27, so it's a whole different ballgame now. But uh, it's the desire to want to, give to him, to teach him these things, to impact my clients, and to impact my friends and family. That's my why. So I keep learning and growing when I have those days where I'm like, God, I just don't think like things are moving for me. Why am I still having this thought? And those thoughts do come up still. Like you
Mhm.
said early on, this is a forever. This is your lifelong journey. You don't arrive at suddenly, ta-da, but you will have little shifts, and you will start to
Mhm.
see those shifts. So, um, focus on your why, and just be gentle with yourself as you navigate this. Don't give up. Just keep doing everything that you can, whether it's the hypnosis, whether it's the affirmations, whether it's the breath work, the energy work. I mean, there's so many things. And I also go to sleep to the hypnosis, and fall asleep that way. So there's a lot of great tools out there today. So take advantage of them.
Absolutely. And I agree. Remember, what Patty said is remember, it's the small steps that count. And that's, with your fitness and your nutrition and anything else. Well, it's the same thing with money management and money mindset. It's the small steps that count. It's the small steps that are going to lead to the bigger changes. My shift in my money mindset and my shift in my money management and my shift in abundance and point blank, my entire relationship with money didn't shift overnight. This is like 7 years in the making. Okay. This is realizing, oh crap, I have a horrible relationship with money, after I said, no, I don't. And they're like, well, what do you do when you pay a bill? Do you say thank you? I'm like, why would I say thank you? Now I say thank you, by the way. Okay. Because she's like, you just said you didn't have a bad relationship with money. You don't say thank you that you had the money to pay a bill. And I'm like, okay, she just got me.
Yeah.
So that was one of my small shifts. That was one of the first small shifts I made, is I started saying thank you every single time I paid a bill, every
Mm-hmm.
single time I pumped gas, because it flipped something in my brain, flipped a script, however you want to call it, shifted it to being thankful and showing gratitude for the money I had to be able to get the things that I needed, put a roof over my girls' head, the electricity, all those things, right? That, because I don't know about you, I don't want to live without electricity. And I refuse to live without plumbing. Hello.
Yeah.
So, paying those things is a necessity. And so I'm saying thank you for having it. And it works. And, now I'm going even deeper, right? Because I'm 7 years into things, like Patty's saying, she listens to hypnosis stuff. I'm starting to do that. And I'm going deeper because I want to have, I need to go deeper because of, things that are happening, and I'm up leveling, and there's this little creeper that creeps up and goes, who do you think you are? And you're going to have those things creep up. And it's just important to remember to go into your toolbox when that's the case, and keep doing the work. Patty, can you please tell our guests where they can find you? Or I think yes, you did. You had a freebie, a free offer for my listeners. Can you tell them about that?
I absolutely can. But before I do that, I want to respond to something that you just said. So when you're paying your bills and saying thank you, that's fantastic. I'm going to also suggest that when you are like going to a restaurant and you go to pay the bill and you go to tip, the person, um, versus, rather than thinking, oh gosh, can I really afford going out to dinner? I should probably keep it, tight, whatever. Think about all the individuals that you are impacting in a positive
Mhm,
way. You are
mhm,
helping the chef pay for his family. You're helping the waitress pay for her family. You're helping the owner of the restaurant pay for. So you're impacting their livelihood by you going to that restaurant. And rather than having that sense of, oh God, I probably shouldn't have done that, um, is, you know what? There's more money. There's more where that came from. There's more where that came from. And you can say that when you're pumping your gas, like you said, or paying your bills, or swiping your card at the grocery store, or, there's more where that came from. And so if you have that mindset of it's abundant, and, money is just,
and
you're
having gratitude.
for gratitude for sure. Having that, being that magnet, because
Mhm,
what you focus on expands. You've heard that probably a million times.
absolutely. Oh, I
And
say it all the time. I say what you focus on is what you create more of.
yeah, 100%. So, yeah, I just, when I learned about you know, the impact that I'm having on other people's lives when I'm paying for something, it does help shift it. It's like, oh, I'm helping that waitress pay for, her kids' school, or, whatever, with the tip I give her, or the money that she's earning by me coming to the restaurant. So, anyways, I wanted to just add that to your comment. So
Oh,
yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. So my homepage is just, again, Patti Handy. It's PattiHandy. And there's a free download and free training. It's on the right on the homepage there. And it's a Women Soaring Solo. It's an ebook that I wrote. It's a financial guide. And it's also 50 things that I did post-divorce to help me get back on track emotionally, mentally, physically. It was just a bunch of things that I wrote. So that's free. And then there's about a half an hour training. I did a 5-day masterclass and I condensed it and I took out all the nuts and bolts and I made it into a 30-minute training. So that's all free. You just, put your name in there and download it and it's there for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on my show today and joining us and telling us your story and being vulnerable. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, my sassy listener, for being here. And until next time, remember to keep being sassy. Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on Cash and Sass. Check us out on social media and on our website at www.thesassywealthcoach.com, where you can download my free Money Story Start Guide. The website again is www.thesassywealthcoach.com. And as always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And remember, yes, it is possible to have sassy and sexy money. See you next week.